Night falls, and the wind blows. The first melodic notes of that sinister song are carried across the mountains towards me, and a wave of cold fear shivers through my veins. I have a couple of Bible passages memorized. It still all seems so bizarre to me. But I mean, hey, if it works, it works. I muttered to myself over and over as I watched for any signs of an approaching what exactly? What am I fighting here? Demons, I suppose. Or demon, if Yuri's theory is correct. But are they? Are they really demons in the way that I am to assume they are? The same singing from the previous night ebbs and flows with the tides of the wind. A deep, low line of voice that rumbles the bone, interspersed with harmonious, beautiful chords. It's different tonight though. It's ever so slightly sharper. It sounds just a little less like a song that I'm simply hearing, as opposed to a song that is being sung to me. But for the first 2 hours of the night, nothing further happens. A modest tumble of stone across the gorge sends my heart rate into temporary overdrive. But nothing approaches. Not yet. The tension builds, almost unbearably. It isn't until well into the 3rd hour that I hear Elena's voice carry across the wind. "Sighted!" she shouts. And across the outpost, a blast of dazzling light tears suddenly into the sky. Here we go. I wince, knuckles wide on the weapon. A part of me is almost relieved to have that brutal building tension finally crack. It's a far clearer night tonight, and I can see further down the cliffside into the abyss. A ripple of dark wind crashes like water into the mountain down below, and this wind carries with it a shadow, clambering with speed and determination up the rock towards the outpost walls. "Fuck!" I shout out loud as I angle the weapon down with a clank, hauling up the lever to the side and taking quick aim. Despite the cold, I am sweating, and the forearms of my jacket are currently rolled up to the elbows. The hairs on my forearms all react to the crackle in sudden electricity as I fire, and the spotlight gun sends a blast of concentrated, sunlight-style energy down towards the approaching assailant. I miss, and the creature draws closer. I catch glimpses of disturbingly human-like arms and hands bursting from the sides of the demon's form as it tears up the mountainside. I bring the weapon round with another mechanical clank, and the beam passes right through it, bursting the creature into shadowy flakes and smoke. Pieces clatter from the obliterated demon and rattle back down the rock. And the night is clear enough and the monster close enough for me to actually see the cause of the rattling this time. They are bones. As the demon is destroyed, burnt bones are sent clattering out from its ruin. Ribs and pieces of spine, and others too. They vanish back down into the shadow pretty promptly. But they were bones alright. I'm sure of it. And so it goes. I do my best to keep the demons in the dark at bay. This is my task. This is my duty. And these are my orders. I cannot help but recall particular words of Christians as I blast these monsters to kingdom come. There was a Sikh stationed here once. He lost his sight. And then the next night, he simply disappeared. Disappeared. How? And why? What happened to him exactly, here on the mountainside? One of the enemy below screams with the wind as the light tears it into 1,000 pieces. And as the night progresses, as we enter into those hours the furthest from the light of dusk and dawn, I watch as something clambers steadily up the mountainside opposite, not the track directly below me. I mutter a phrase from Corinthians and aim the weapon up high with a series of mechanical clicks and clanks. Electricity judders to my veins as the light is sent soaring out towards it. But this demon acts differently to the others. It is difficult, almost impossible to focus on these creatures, such as the fluidity of their forms. But this one is more difficult still. It spreads out wide into the shape of a circle, and the beam passes harmlessly through its center. I direct the weapon this way and that, but each time, the entity on the opposite mountain distorts and shimmers through various dreamlike shapes to avoid it. And by doing so, my faith in the weapon's ability falters. Sweat leaks in little rivulets down my back, and a voice I recognize whispers into my ear. The voice is my brother's, made all the more alarming by the fact that my brother has been dead for 10 long years. "I miss you, Adam," he says. It's not him. It's them. My heart pounds in pain and longing, fear and anger. I'd give anything to call back to him, to talk to him one last time. But I cannot, of course. I cannot. 2. Do not engage verbally or physically with the enemy. I shout out the passage from the previous night, the one with the trumpets, a passage of defiance. "Adam, lay down your weapon and come to the edge. The dwellers in the outpost are lying to you. You seek the truth, and I can provide it." As with before, when my brother's voice says "I," it comes in 2 words, sounding as if he is saying "we" with the exact same breath. I grit my teeth, eyes wide and knuckles cracked as I mutter the passage again and again, over and over, my breath clouding in the blasts of the beam. My brother's voice whispers further. "I know you are scared, and I am sorry for the fears I have caused you. But ask yourself where the true enemy lies. I seek nothing but safety, sanctuary and peace." But I do not listen. I push aside these intrusive words and battle on through the night, keeping at bay every creeping threat to the outpost. The beam from another turret comes to my aid. I do not know whose it is. Christians, perhaps? But it strikes through the shadowy, shape-shifting entity directly across the Great Gorge. And together with a ray of my own light, the demon is obliterated into the night with a shower of smoke and dark clattering bones. So the demons can see inside our heads then. They can access our memories. The prospect is a terrifying one. I am now decidedly unnerved and panicked. Hearing my brother's voice again, coming from something other than a recording on an electronic device, it has set me on a new and precarious edge. I thought I had a basic grasp of these creatures, but I am realizing all over again that I don't have a clue what they're capable of. Anything could happen now. Lights flash in the darkness. I hear a voice carried across the roof of the outpost by a sudden gust of wind. Female, Russian, Elena no doubt, and I feel a step of bitter frustration as I swing the mechanical weapon around with a clank. She's been here for a long time, that much is clear. How long exactly I'm not sure, but it could be anything up to 2 months, potentially longer. Charlie's been here for 4 weeks, that's what he said, and he's NATO, so surely he should be doing too. And April seems to be under the impression that Elaine has some secrets to hide. I shake my head and mutter a curse under my breath. The system here seems to be in all sorts of shambles. Perhaps our respective commands don't really give a damn, all things considered, provided the outpost fulfills its most basic quota of 6 warm bodies to defend it. But I digress. Elaine has been here for a long time. Yuri likely as well. Why didn't they warn me about all this? They've barely helped at all. What have they done for me exactly? A soldier putting his life on the line in the face of such unearthly terror. I've been giving a brief lecture on fucking ley lines from Elena and scarcely a handful of words from Yuri. Maybe they're just blinded by all the anti-American propaganda they've been spoon-fed day after day. But surely up here on this mountain, they'd try to put that to one side, right? Surely, in the face of such greater evil. My forearms ache as I tense them and swing the weapon down with another metallic creaking clank, electricity sparking as I fire a beam into the darkness below. Destroy all those who curse my soul, I'll recite with jaw clenched. In service I am yours. Blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war. Mechanical booms of thunder are sent rippling through the valley and the mountains, as the lightning-like flashes alight the rocky edges in the darkness. The Lord, of course, was not quite the one who trained my hands for war, however. I have the army of the United States of America to thank for that. A not-so-benevolent Lord, if ever there was one. Less Jehovah, more Mars. But I try not to think about this. Such thoughts, I have found, weaken the effect of the weapon. I try to follow the advice given to me by Christian. Think good thoughts. It helps. The same advice given to me by the Russian officer who dropped me off on my first night. The first night was 2 days ago, Adam. You've scarcely been here for 2 days. Feels like a fucking lifetime. But the night goes on, and the battle rages. And, as before, as always, the darkness recedes. The first glorious shimmer of sunlight rises above the jagged horizon, and the edges of the mountain are washed in faded gold. I collapse away from the weapon, my back up against the little metal railing behind me. I look down at my hands. They are covered in grime, shaking, and several of the fingers are locked into their positions. To move them causes me pain, and I wince as I try to work the blood flow back into them. And after a concerted burst of effort, I clamber to my feet and head across the roof of this section of the outpost, making my way down the metal ladder and returning into the building. In a dreary daze, I pass by both Charlie and Christian on my way to my dorm. I nod at both of them. Charlie nods back. Christian even gives me a smile and a clap on the shoulder. I do as before. I shed my uniform and my coat, and I collapse into my bed. I do not even bother to draw the curtains, though it doesn't particularly matter. The daylight streaming weakly through the window is not sufficient to wake me from my slumber. And my sleep is deep. Deep. And as with the previous night, unsettling. I awaken with a groan at 14 hours. 2 p.m. Earlier than yesterday. There's no blissful ignorance as I return to the land of the living this morning. Afternoon, I suppose. And am instead instantly aware of where I am and what my purpose is here. And what I'll need to do again tonight. I groan a little louder, rubbing my hands across my eyes, smelling the grease and grime across them as I do so. I need to start washing a little better before bed. This can't be healthy. I clean up and dress for the day, leaving my dorm and heading through the kitchen canteen to grab some breakfast. A generator hums quietly in one corner as I cook some eggs and beans and bring them through to the main room, to the hexagon. Elena is in here, eating something out of a bowl at the side of the room. She glances up from her crossword at my approach, but does not make any kind of greeting. April is in here also, at the room's opposite side. She's fiddling with a small radio, the pieces of which lay scattered across one of the tables. "Hey Adam," she says to me. "Good sleep?" No, I reply. Not really. But it served its purpose. That's the spirit, she replies as she tinkers. Say, you aren't an engineer, are you? No, sorry. No worries, though it was worth asking. Yuri is, but you know, he's a miserable bastard. Helena looks up again and swallows her mouthful of food. She chaps the hand with the spoon in it over to where April is sitting. Yuri will fix your radio. Get off your high horse and ask him. He will do this. April snorts and shakes her head. No, he won't. He'll swear at me in Russian and leave me to suffer. He isn't a good person. Helena seems to take offense to this. Yuri does what is best for good of the Outpost. You need him to fix radio? He will fix radio. This is Russian good person. American good person means fake smiles and hollow laughter all day, 24 hours. How very cliché, I mutter. A Russian with an anti-Americanism complex. Elena's cold, pale eyes flicker over to mine, and I get the uneasy sense that a great weight was just dropped on top of me. She puts down her bowl and gets to her feet. A slow motion, one that serves to draw out attention. But this woman doesn't scare me, not after the horrors of the night. You're not typical recruit we get sent here, Adam, she says. I know that this could be the first time she addressed me by my actual name. No? I ask. No, she replies. You are timid. You have angsty aura, unsettled, childlike. You're putting the Outpost coalition in danger with your presence. I stare at her, irritated, but doing my best not to seem fazed. I force out some laughter and fold my arms. You've got me all wrong. How am I putting the Outpost in danger exactly? I just helped successfully defend it. You know how many demons I destroyed last night? Elena doesn't respond. She only watches, searching me with those Arctic eyes. I shift uncomfortably. April chimes in. Oh, leave him alone, Elena, you bully. He's doing his best. This seems to make her particularly angry. The bully comment. A flash of genuine fury crosses her face, and I watch her body twitch, her fists clench. Just for a moment, my throat dries, and I get a quick, modest burst of adrenaline. But nothing happens. Elena closes her eyes and takes a breath. And then she simply strides from the room, down one of the corridors, and towards another section of the Outpost. I untense my muscles and bring myself down into a seat near April with a grunt to actually go ahead and eat my breakfast. We sit there for a while in comfortable silence. Me eating and April working away at her radio. She presses a button and it cracks and fizzles. She sighs. These things are temperamental at best, she says, shaking it in her hand. They don't work like they're supposed to up here, in this environment, and mine's died completely. I look at her. April, tell me, how long have you been here exactly? At the Outpost? Just over a week, she replies. Just over a week. And Charlie's been here for 4? Is that right? She nods. But I thought NATO personnel were only required to do 2. Yeah, she says uneasily. But you know how it is. They tell you one thing, and then they change it. And to be fair, I think Charlie actually volunteered to stay longer. I think he wants to do 2 months, like the Russians. What? Why would he want that? April shrugs again. I think he just likes the thrill. The thrill. I shake my head. And what about Christian then? So Christian's been here before. He's only on his 2nd week right now, but he keeps coming back. I think he's been more or less alternating groups of weeks for about a year. A year? Yeah, maybe more even. Why would he do that? Why would he keep coming back? Is this of his own choosing? Or are his superiors forcing him back all the time? Our superiors, I guess. So what about Elena? He sure asked a lot of questions at him. Well, maybe that's because nobody tells me anything. Okay, jeez. I don't know how long Elena's been here. She won't tell me. Don't really know anything about her. But she hates me. That much is pretty obvious. The thing is though, Adam, I think she's been here for a long time. Like, really long. You can tell in the way she speaks to Christian that the two go way back. But I think she's been here longer than he has. And I'm not convinced that she's taking any time off either. There's something that scares me about that one. And I'm not just talking about that nasty scar. So Christian won't tell you anything either? Why not? I don't know. I think that he and the Russians are keeping secrets from us. From the Americans. I don't get it. Why would they do that? And Christian is a nice guy. He's a NATO soldier, for God's sake. April just puts out her hands. Listen, come take a look at this, alright? She stands up and checks down the corridor that Elena left through, before beckoning me over to the section of the wall with the little framed photographs across them. You want to see something really weird? I don't know what could possibly be weirder than what I've already seen, but sure, go for it. She leads me through a door in the wall to the small back room. It's basically a storage unit with lots of shelves, and it's full of dusty photographs, many of which have been framed. Some are kept in stacked piles, others hang on the limited wall space. She points to one such photo. Take a look at this one. You recognize anybody? I squint at it. It's a picture of a squad of 6 people at the front of the outpost. The enormous weapon on the outpost's roof can be seen in the background. In the foreground stand 3 people, with 3 others crouched down at the front. 5 men, 1 woman. They're all grinning in this picture, which makes the woman initially quite hard to identify. The quality is unusual also, quite grainy looking. But the scar, once you think to look for it, is obvious. It's Elena, alright. Her hair is different, and she seems a bit younger, but she still looks pretty much the same. Oh, it's a picture of Elena and the rest of the team. They're all different people. Yeah, but that's not the weird part. Check this. April again glances around, peering back out through the door before moving to unhook the picture frame from the wall. She turns it over and adjusts the clips until she is fully able to slide the photograph out from the frame. She flips it, revealing a scrawled line in pen near the bottom. Read this, she says. Look at the date. I take it from her. The handwriting is poor, but in thin black ink or a series of initials. And a date. SGH 1987. I furrow my brow at her. 1987? Think about it. That would make this picture 35 years old. What the fuck are we supposed to take from that? That Elena's been here for 35 years at least? And I mean, just look at her. You have to be 18 to join the army, right? So let's assume that in this picture she is, at the absolute lowest, 18. Does the Elena you know look like a 53-year-old woman? Well, no. I'll reply uneasily. Obviously, Elena isn't 53 years old. Then what the fuck is she doing in a picture from 1987? I considered this, flipping it over, looking from the picture to the writing and back. No way, I murmur. This can't be right. There are loads of good explanations for this. Maybe it's not Elena. Maybe SGH just wrote 1987 on the back for a joke. There's no way this pic is from so long ago. Why would anybody do that? April asks me, intently. Where's the joke? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's a Russian reference. Did anything of significance happen in 1987? I shake my head. It's just pen and paper, April. You can write any old numbers on photographs. Doesn't mean that they're actually from that date. April grimaces. There's something they're not telling us, Adam. The Russians, they're keeping something from us. And if I was a betting woman, I'd say it had to do with the Outpost. I consider this as we return back to the main room, as April and I shoot the shit and talk about our lives back home. She's from a little further south than I. She comes from a little town just outside St. Louis. I don't think she particularly likes it there very much, based on the way she talks about it. Maybe that's why she joined the army. Eventually, she heads off to relieve Yuri from his tower duty, and I decide to wander the complex. I hid from room to room, spending most of this period in an old equipment storage facility. It's full of musty, dusty old climbing gear, harnesses, carabiners and ropes, all that stuff. I recognize one such set as standard US Army issue, and it's as I'm investigating these items that Charlie's head appears suddenly from around the doorway. I jump in alarm. "Afternoon, mate," he says with a grin. Then a bottle of vodka appears in his hand, and the liquid sloshes about in the glass. "Fancy a quick drink?" I hesitate. I don't know, man," I tell him. "Is that really such a good idea?" "Come on," he says. "Just to wet the whistle. One or two." He gives the bottle another tempting shake. I hesitate. "Sure," I reply after a beat. "Why not?" A few hours pass. These hours comprise myself, Charlie and Christian sharing one or two modest drinks in the hexagon. Yuri partakes also, though he keeps to himself and sits by one of the room's windows, nursing thirstily from a bottle. He mutters to himself in Russian as he finishes it off, dropping the bottle to the floor with a classy clank and staggering up and out of his seat, stumbling towards the low little table that Christian, Charlie and I are sat around to grab another to take away. "But that's just the thing, lads. Listen, I'm serious." Charlie slurs as I knock over a can of questionable Russian beer with the back of my hand. Christian interrupts with his best impression of Charlie's accent. "For real, lads. Oi, I'm not kidding you. It's a bloody mess, all right." Alcohol splurs from my lips as I struggle to hold back laughter, and Charlie slams a fist down onto the table with rich amusement, sending the hordes of glasses and cans rattling and knocking into each other. One or two of the emptier cans fall on their sides and roll to the floor. "If you weren't such a nice bloke, I'd knock you the fuck out, Christian," he says, just a little too loudly. Christian shakes his head and wipes some froth from his beard, then waggles his finger in Charlie's face. No, you wouldn't, my friend. Such violence is not for the good vibes, yes?" He corrects himself. "Such violence is not good for good vibes. It disturbs," he hiccups, "disturbs the demons." "Or demon. Singular. Right, Yuri?" I say, leaning back and calling over to the Russian in the corner. He spits on the ground and waves a hand. The man mutters something at me. My mood sours. I throw out a hand. "What's your problem, man? Why don't you like me? Give me a chance, for fuck's sake. I'm doing my best here." "Hey, chill out, mate," Charlie says, putting out a hand, a drunken blink rolling across his face from one eye to the other. "Don't be so American, you know." "What the hell's that supposed to mean?" I ask him as Yuri staggers to his feet. Hey, nothing personal like, Charlie says, his eyebrows shooting up as he reaches for another sip of the vodka. I just mean like, needing to be liked and that. Don't stress it. He'll warm up to you in time. I'm not sure he will. I sigh. But whatever. Just trying to create some sense of coalition. Looking out for my fellow man. Unity, etc. Yuri snorts on his way out of the room. Bye, Tata, he grunts dryly before vanishing out of sight. I reach for another bottle and take a swig. Charlie chuckles. Russians think they're hot shit because they've been here so long. Well, we'll see. I'm gonna break Yuri's record. I promise you now, lads. What about Elena's? I ask him. The man shakes his head vigorously. No chance, pal. She's been here for fucking years. So it's true. Years. Charlie shrugs and leans back in his chair, burping. I don't know, mate. I could be exaggerating. Christian knows her better than I do. I turn to him. Christian, what do you think? What's Elena's story? Christian scratches his beard. She's been here for a long time, yes. Since 1987? I whisper, anxiously. 1987? What? I stare at him. He stares back, then laughs, taking another big swig of the beer. You're joking, right? I doubt she's been here since 1987. Not possible. Really, actually. So, how long has she been here then? Christian sighs. She prefers me not to tell you. She's a private person. Mysterious. She has lots of history. I think she finds peace up here, away from the world. Peace? Up here? On Demon Mountain? Demon Mountain. Charlie snorts. I like that one. Sounds like a ride at bloody Disney World. And think about it. Demons. We're fighting demons up here. I shout, throwing out my hands and knocking a bottle to the floor with a clatter. Why haven't we all acknowledged how batshit crazy that is? We have, mate. We've just been through what you're going through already. Charlie says, pointing his bottle at me and clapping me on the shoulder. You're doing good, mate. Just keep the demons out. Don't let them into the outpost. Don't use weaponry outside the boundary, etc. A demon spoke to me in my brother's voice last night. I mutter quietly, and the guys share a quick glance. What did he say? Christian asks. He told me that it only wanted peace, that I should ask myself who the true enemy are. You didn't respond, did you, mate? Charlie asks in a sudden panic. Of course he didn't. Christian interjects. You think we'd be sitting here so casually right now if he did? So what happens if we do respond? I ask nervously in a low voice. If they do get into the outpost. I lean forwards. The other two do likewise. They look at each other as the wind blows beyond the walls of the complex. It's snowing this evening. Might be a cold one tonight. A demon got into the complex once before with you, didn't it, Chris? Charlie asks the Norwegian, and the man nods. That was a terrible night, Adam. One of the worst nights of my life. He sighs and sets his bottle back onto the table. And believe me, I've had some low-quality nights. Elena was there also. It was like taking away the mosquito net by the banks of a tropical river. Charlie nods somberly and takes another sip, staring off into space. Poetic, mate. I press him. And how long ago was this worst night of your life? When was this exactly? Christian rubs his fingers over his eyes. I'm not sure. 2 years maybe? 2 years? So you've been here that long? I ask him. No, he replies. I come and go. I consider this. So that confirms some of what April was saying earlier. Christian comes and goes. Elena has been here for at least 2 years. Quite likely longer. I need more. I need more information. And Elena, I begin, whispering now, though Charlie seems amused by this. It's alright, mate, he slurs. She ain't gonna hear you. Speak your mind. He winks at Christian. I certainly know what's on my mind, lads. He puts his hand out in front of his chest, making the international gesture for massive boobs. This sets Christian roaring with laughter, and I cannot help but join in. Charlie, Christian laughs. You are a bad man. You shouldn't speak like that of our comrade. What? Charlie says defensively, giving up his best innocent face. I'm just saying, I'd love to have a go on those fucking tits. He elbows me. Hey, wouldn't you, Adam? I laugh drunkenly and shrug. I'm not sure, man. She kinda scares me. This sets the guys laughing even harder. Though I suppose. I put on my British accent. She does have a lovely big pair of knuckles. What the fuck is going on in here? Says Elena from just behind me. And the three of us shout out in alarm and stagger up to our feet in an instant. Bottles and glasses clinking, and knocking and tipping, rolling noisily across the little table and clattering to the floor. She stares with fury at the enormous collection of bottles and emptied cans across the table, chairs and floors. She looks between us, her gaze sharp and terrifying. You stupid, stupid assholes, she shouts in a thick accent. What the hell have you done? The looks she gives to Charlie and I convey, basically, her disgust. But the glance she gives to Christian is full of disappointment. I cringe from the second-hand disapproval. Christian chuckles awkwardly. Look, Elena, maybe this got a little out of hand. Do you idiots know what time it is? She asks, throwing a hand out towards the window. We have 1 hour until sunset. 1 hour. Tension ripples around the room. No, Charlie mutters, squinting and blinking at his watch. He is the only one wearing one. No, we've got ages, haven't we? I made it at least 3 or 4. He trails off. Elena does not say anything. She just puts a hand to her head. Where is Yuri? She asks quietly, with her eyes closed. Tell me he did not have access to this alcohol. No one replies. Fuck, she shouts. Well, you all need to sober up. Fucking quick too. She claps her hands in our faces. Move. And move we do, stumbling and tripping, trying to keep out the sudden panic attacking the back of our minds. Shit, is all I can think, as I feel the alcohol sweats start to put across my body. Shit, shit, shit. What the hell was I thinking? I ask myself as I splash cold water into my face. Am I really so irresponsible? Charlie, that man can drink like a fish. How could I have allowed myself to get so swept up? I rub my hands through my hair, rub my thumbs over my eyes. No use placing blame. This is just as much my fault as it is his. A nice shower follows, the water like needles across my body. A crate of some weird Russian soft drink is discovered in the back as I dry myself off. a curious green Gatorade-like juice labeled Tarkuna. I popped the cap and chugged one down, as do the others. Tastes okay, I guess. Though I don't know how long it's been here. The electrolytes, if indeed it has any, should do me good. I can hear Elena arguing with Christian in another room, though I cannot make out the words. I take a look at myself in the mirror, at my bloodshot eyes, the guilt in my expression. I give myself a light slap across the face and head toward my station with a few parting words to Charlie. He raises his eyebrows at me and grimaces, but says nothing. Time's up. Our revitalization hour has passed. The night cometh. I clamber up to my ladder and wince as my head breaches the gap in the ceiling, the wind blowing cold and fierce into my face. Elena shouts out at me from below. I turn down to her, pausing on the final rung. What? Yuri! He shouts again, angrily. Where is Yuri? Crap. I don't know. I hadn't seen him since earlier. He's not at his station? No, Elena replies. He isn't, and the sun will be down in a minute or so. She thrusts her radio from her belt and up to her mouth. April, come in please. Have you seen Yuri? Oh, Elena, I call down. April's radio is still broken. She won't be able to hear you. Elena swears loudly in Russian, slamming the radio back into its clip on her belt. What is wrong with you people? She exclaims, swiveling on the spot and marching off through the complex. Shivering, I return to the ladder and ascend up and onto the roof, heading over to my position by the gun and dropping down to a crouch, looking through the sights at the mountainside all around. Another clear night tonight. I blink rapidly, trying to force away the dizziness. The bitter cold of the air helps, somewhat. I am aware of the gravity of my fuck-up, but still, I do actually feel a little braver tonight. Brave? No, you're just stupid, idiot. Idiot, you're still drunk. The sun sinks behind the mountains. I wipe a sheen of alcohol sweats from my forehead, glancing away and up to the sky. Clouds swirl softly overhead, and little flakes of snow begin to fall, one by one. I wonder how long it'll take for the demons to show up this time. Last night gave us 3 hours of steadily building tension. Could it be a similar story tonight? More maybe? My question is swiftly and brutally answered, even before I have had time to allocate significant brainpower to such a line of thought. They appear. To my utter dismay, the demons arrive at the very instant the night begins. The tip of the sun sinks beneath the horizon, and the sun begins to shiver its way through the night from peak to peak. Discordant tonight, jarring sharp notes where one does not expect them, like nails on a chalkboard. I grit my teeth. Dark, void-like air crashes in the form of waves into the cliff far below, right where the rocky slopes are lost to darkness. And up they clamber, to begin with, shadowy, near formless shapes, those long shimmering arms reaching out, grabbing hold of the rock and hauling themselves up towards me. The arms vanish back up into air as more are thrown out, an endless cycle of grabbing hands and clawing feverish limbs. I suck some mountain cold air in through my teeth and angle down the weapon, the great contraption clanking and creaking as I fire the first chaotic stream of screaming light. Down tears the beam with an electric shudder, an arrow of gold in the gloom as it burns right past the demons directly below. I curse and try again, this blast going too wide. Come on. Third time lucky. I feel the juddering in my forearms as the light is sent searing down and the demons are both caught together. They burst into wisps of smoke and shards of clattering bone. And I bring the weapon around, firing again as the next of the abomination appears over to my left. This is not good at all. Where the hell is Yuri? Is Elena even at her station yet? She was trying so hard to make sure that the rest of us were all ready. Why did the demons have to arrive so early tonight? Shit. One of the creatures gets frightening close. Adrenaline surges as the shadow ripples up the mountainside towards me, reaching up and out with a desperate hand. And at this range, I swear I can see the rough outline of something in its shadows. A head and a pair of shoulders, perhaps. A jaw that stretches from one side to the other, opening wide as the darkness spills out. I cry out in horror and slam down the weapon, releasing a beam directly beneath, temporarily blinded as the blast thunders out and roars down the rocky wall below, destroying the demon with a screech and a clatter of bones. One of these bones, a piece of rib by the looks of it, flies up and over my head. I duck to the side as it flies behind me and strikes the wall, tumbling down to the ground below. Too close. Come on, Adam. Come on. Don't let the enemy into the outpost. I blink some more as the colorful streaks of red and a blurred light flash across my vision. I groan and my stomach lurches. I've found a way to somehow make my experience on this outpost even worse. Your comrades' lives are at stake. Wake up, soldier. Wake up, Adam, whispers the voice of a demon into my ear. I jump in fright and swat at the air instinctively. But there is always nothing there. Wake up and see the truth. I require entry to the tomb. I do not want to hurt you. But I will do what I must. I have been waiting for a long time. I grit my teeth and swing the weapon around, firing off concentrated bursts at the approaching targets. What the hell are those things? I mutter to myself, blasting the weapon again and again. The alcohol has provided me with some temporary resistance to the cold, it would seem. The wind, despite the shock of the initial chill, does not seem quite so brutal. But the trade-off in terms of accuracy and sense of impending doom were really not worth it. Not worth it in the slightest. Many of my shots go wide. The demons clamber ever so closer to my position, streaming constantly up the walls. And every time that they reach a certain distance away, my terror flares up. The fear of the unknown. I still don't know exactly what would happen if such a creature were to breach and make their way onto or into the outpost. A shout way off to my right draws my attention. I shoot a quick glance over the roof and catch a blur of movement at the wall's edge. Lightning-like flashes in the darkness all around illuminate the edge of the cliffs, the walls, and my comrade, Yuri. My blood freezes. The man is a mess. Stationed on a section of a roof across the gap, over to my right, he is shouting belligerently down and into the shadows below. I watch in horror as a pair of hands grab the wall by Yuri's side. It's difficult to see from this distance, but there is nothing else they could be. Yuri bellows in Russian and staggers back to his weapon, grabbing it, taking careless aim, and then swinging the thing around in a chaotic arc, a blast of light tearing towards me. Right past me, in fact, as I shield my face from the rush of heat, slipping and stumbling backwards and striking the section of wall behind me with a thud. Jesus! I shout. Yuri, what the hell? But he cannot hear me. Either that, or he is simply failing to listen. The light goes white again and again as the man struggles with the machinery. He wipes his eyes with a sleeve and slurs a long string of words as he sways from side to side. I reach for my radio and bellow into it. Elena, are you there? Yuri is up on the post right beside me. But he's a mess. Something's going to happen. Something bad. and as I speak, I watch as a dark shape grabs a hold of Yuri's arm. Yuri swears and draws a knife from his belt, hacking and slashing at the smoke. It seems to do little, however, and more of the substance envelops him. A moment more, and he is falling. The shadows drag him over the edge. I watch, with eyes wide, and everything in the moment begins to play out in slow motion. Yuri slips from the wall and tumbles down the cliffside into the darkness below. Lights flash at the edges of my vision, and the snowflakes fall thicker all around. "Yuri!" I shout. But the man has vanished. I draw my radio up to my mouth and try to report this, hand shaking. Yuri's gone over," I shout. "He's gone over the edge." But my radio only crackles with static. I look down over the edge, peering into the darkness. Hastily, I return to my weapon, launching a beam in a white, X-like arc directly below, obliterating a group of the demons, and illuminating, for a moment, Yuri, trapped on a rocky outcrop below, his back against the cliff, darkness swirling all around him. "Shit, Yuri!" But the man does not respond. Unsure what to do, I spend a further few moments blasting demons away from the rock below, shooting a few wide to try and keep Yuri's immediate area free from them. And in a moment of brief respite, with the cliffside below entirely clear, I make a decision. I abandon my post, aware of the critical importance of the first rule, but still, there is a man in danger. I scramble down the ladder in haste and sprint through the complex corridors towards the equipment room, the room that Charlie found me in as it happened. I burst in and look all around. Where is it? Where is it? And yes, in a rack stashed in a corner is just what I found earlier. Still a US Army issue, covered in the dust, a set of old climbing gear. I run over and grab it into my arms, running as quickly as I can back through the halls, over to the room and ladder that will take me up to Yuri's post. And I climb. Up I go, back into the wintry world above, and dumping the equipment onto the ground in the snow as I jump to Yuri's weapon, angling it around and feeling the electric crackle across my skin as I send a beam out, diagonally down the side of the cliff. Demons burst and steam with shattering bones, and I swivel on the post, grabbing the equipment and getting myself into it as quickly as possible, finding an anchor to attach it in, all whilst simultaneously trying to protect both my own and Yuri's section of the wall. I swear to myself, over and over, sweating and shaking in the snow, my hands alternating between the straps on the gear and the mechanisms of the weapon attached to the wall. I try the radio again, for a second time. I try simply shouting as loud as I possibly can. Christ, I should have called to someone when I was in the complex. Why didn't I think of that? But it's too late now. "Yuri! Yuri!" I call down, and the man looks back up at me, his face illuminated briefly and faintly in the distant flash. A demon slithers up onto the rock by his feet, and he kicks at it in alarm. I jump to the weapon. "Duck!" I shout, firing a prolonged beam down into the shadows. Yuri shoots his face as the demons about his feet are obliterated, and I bring the beam back across the chasm below. I jump for a Bible, of which there are several piled up against the wall, and I flip one open, rifling through the pages for a good passage. But it's pointless. It's all in Russian. I can't read a single word of this. "Oh God," I shout. Then I lean over to the edge and throw the Bible down to Yuri. He reaches up to catch it, but misses, and it lands unceremoniously at his feet on the ledge beside him. "I'm coming for you, man," I mutter, finally finishing affixing the climbing gear to myself and the outpost. And, with a breath, clambering over the side and stepping clumsily down into the dark. The sensation is hugely uncomfortable. It's like the air is thicker down here, wetter almost. It becomes harder to take in breaths. But down I go, step by step down the rock, praying that the demons will stay in the darkness beneath, just for a little longer. Long enough for me to grab Yuri and haul him back up and over the wall. I reach the man and put out a hand. He stares at me, eyes bloodshot, forearms all scratched up and bleeding. He says something to me in Russian, staring with utter disbelief. "Come on!" I shout to him. "No man left behind, goddammit!" Yuri swears in Russian and grabs a hold of my shoulder straps. "We're going up. Come on, help me here. You have to climb," I tell him, grabbing a hold of his jacket and making to haul us both back and up against the side of the cliff. Back up we go, blood pounding in my veins, and I can only watch in dismay as, despite my bitter hopes, a demon slithers its way right past us. I get the closest view of one of these creatures so far. From this angle, it looks vaguely, ever so slightly, human. One compromised of rippling smoke and mist. Its arms move with such speed that it's impossible to tell how many it might have. An arm stretches up and grabs hold of the rock to drag the demon up. And, in the very same second, another arm comes up to replace it. And another, and then another. "No!" I shout out into the night as the demon rushes right past and grabbing hold of the lip of the outpost wall above and clambering over the side and onto the roof out of sight. "No. Yuri, come on!" I shout to the man, and together we climb back up the rope, faster than I would have thought possible. But we reach the summit and fling ourselves back over the edge and onto the outpost. I take a deep and shaky breath, throwing myself at the weapon and bringing it around, a light releasing into the darkness. I grab the man by the front of the uniform. "Are you good, Yuri?" I shout. "Can you man this thing?" He nods, bewildered. He shoves me away and returns to his station, reaching for a Bible and flipping through the pages, and I make to unfasten myself from the climbing harness. I grab my radio again, bringing it up to my mouth. "Attention!" I say into it. "A demon! There is a demon in the outpost!" I tear the equipment off and clamber unsteadily down the ladder, darting through the complex, looking this way and that for any sign of the intruder. I don't know what I will do if I actually find it, however. Everything is a blur. I just know that this is partly my fault, my responsibility, and so I have to be the one to deal with it. Shadows lurk and creep in the corners of the complex. A light flashes through the thick glass of the windows as I race between the walls. "Hey!" I shout down the halls. "Hey, show yourself!" A voice crackles through my radio. Elena's. 2 words. "Where?" she says. Then, "When?" I grab the thing and bring it up to my face. 5 minutes ago or so. My side of the outpost. With Yuri, by Yuri's station. The radio crackles. "And where are you now?" she replies. "Inside the complex, near the kitchens, trying to find it." "No, return to your station. Do not engage. I will deal with this." The ice in her voice makes it difficult to disobey. I falter. But then, just do as she says, running back through the complex, expecting to get jumped at any second, returning to my post and ascending the ladder. A part of me is waiting for a demonic hand to reach out below me, to grab me around the ankle and drag me down and away into the darkness. But no, nothing happens. I climb back up and out into the snow, shielding my eyes as a light beam lights up the area immediately before me. One of Yuri's. Bones rattle and clatter down the mountainside, and I return to my weapon, carrying on with my duty. The fear like a fire within me. Elena's voice comes through the radio again.
Barricade entrances to Outpost immediately. All. Draw up ladders if possible. Do not return into complex for any reason. We must wait and hope for the rising sun.
And so I do. I reach for a nearby crate and heave it across the roof in order to block out the little passage back into the outpost. I draw up the ladder with a clatter and block up the entrances as best as I can. Is this really our plan? I can't help but wonder. Leave the demon inside to its own devices? What happens at daybreak? Will it simply die? That's what I'm hoping, but it's too chaotic right now to formulate any kind of serious alternative. I just do my best to keep any further demons from breaching the walls. Rule number 1. Do not let the enemy into the outpost. Fuck. Oh hell. And I was doing so well too. What's going to happen now? What's going to happen to the outpost? To us? I remember Christian's words from earlier, about the last time the demons got into the complex. It was like taking away the mosquito net by the banks of a tropical river. I grimace. And as the night deepens, the demons become more and more numerous. Whereas in the previous nights and in the past few hours, it was the occasional assailant clambering up the cliffside in ones or twos. They now appear thick and fast, in hordes. Constant, an endless stream of monsters in the dark. Sweat pouts from my body, and I can feel it freezing across my skin. My hands ache and burn with exertion. The muscles in my shoulders and upper back scream in time with the blasts of the burning, blinding light. The song from the mountains is almost entirely lost beneath the endless shiver and battle of ribs and bones and spine, as demon smoke billows in all directions. My silver cross is gripped tight in my left hand. My voice repeats a nonsensical tale of ceaseless, disjointed, vaguely appropriate Bible verses until it is hoarse. And still I shout out into the darkness. The whispering becomes worse, and the things they say. Adam, you are no first man. Stand aside. You cannot stop the tide. You are a good man, Adam. You do not belong here. And this. Just let us pass. I won't hurt you or your friends. I promise. Let us in before it is too late. I can save them if you let me. Your brother would understand. Just stand aside. Tricks. All of it. Tricks. I have to believe this, because any alternative is too dangerous to even consider. So I do my duty. The outpost and the surrounding mountains are flashed with light and fire and smoke all the long way through till the sparks of the morning. I do not collapse with instant relief as the first flicker of sunlight appears on the horizon. I do not even notice it. My eyes are shut with retina-burnt streaks of color. Every blink is like a fireworks show. My hands are white and frozen. Yet, still they tremble violently, gripped tight to the sides of the weapon. I angle it this way and that, then back again, searching for demons, still repeating the verses over and over. But, after several minutes of no further approaching creatures, I finally risk a quick glance up to the sky. I see the light. The natural light. Of the day. Not whatever terrifying light it is that we create here with these accursed weapons. I gasp and stagger backwards, unclenching the fingers of my left wrist, slowly, listening to them crack, and I carefully pry the silver across my grip. A deep imprint has been left in my flesh, the outline obvious, and I return the little cross to my chest, eyes still white, shivering. In a dreamlike haze, I push aside the crate and the other items I used to barricade the entrance to the rooftop lookout. I send the ladder back down with a metallic rattle, the noise like the bones of the demons against the rocks. In turn, and step by shaking step, I descend, my muscles failing me on the final few rungs, and I crash down into a heap at its base, groaning as I try to climb back up. Sleep. I need sleep. It's weird. My mind tells me I need to rest, but my body remains on high alert, heart pumping, senses primed, despite my weariness. It's very difficult to describe, and I know I'm going to get shouted at by Elena too. Something I'm really not looking forward to. Elena. Fuck. And the demon. There's still a demon between these walls. Christian appears at the end of the corridor, rubbing his forehead. Christian, I croak out, raising a hand and walking towards him. The light from the sun has yet to do more than allow the briefest trickle of light through the glass, and the walls are still thick with shadow. Christian, hey, is it safe? Do the demons all disappear when the sun rises? Is there anything we need to do? Christian sighs as I approach. He brings up a second hand to rub his eyes. Christian, I say, in a voice barely above a hoarse whisper. You heard the radio, right? The demon, the one that got in. Is it gone? What do we do? Is it safe? The man removes his hands from his eyes. A dark, human-sized silhouette at the corridor's end. A warm body between these cold, sterile walls. And he turns to me. Slowly. His body remains perfectly still, however, as do his shoulders. And only his head makes the turn. Turning slightly. Ever so slightly, further than it should. I stare at him, and he at I. He steps from the shadows, and I am able to see his eyes in the dim glimmer of light. The color in them has completely vanished. There is only white, with the tiniest pinprick of a pupil in the center of each. I take a slow, horrified step back. Christian. The black of the man's pupils dilate. They expand, and they expand further still, until the entirety of his eyes are washed over in black. His body cracks as he moves around to line up with his head. And step by step, he begins to make his way towards me. Shambling through the shadows